Hey, greetings. Michael Didier here. Thank you for joining us. Last week, oh my goodness, we saw Dinah, Jacob's only daughter. We think she's his only daughter. Maybe he's got other daughters and they don't get mentioned, but I'm going to say she's his only daughter at this point. She was taken 8 years old by Shechem, the prince of the city of Shechem. It was named after him. And her two brothers, Simeon and Levi, were outraged. They went to the city, and after they had tricked them into getting circumcised, and they rescued their daughter, rescued their sister, and took away, look what it says, the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city because their sister had been defiled. They took their sheep, their oxen, their donkeys, what was in the city and what was in the field, and all their wealth, all their little ones. It says their women. They took captive. No, they took the virgins captive. All their little ones. I said that. And they plundered even all that was in the houses. This was 2 weeks ago. We read this. No, this was last week we read this. The final, at the end of this, Jacob is outraged. Why is he outraged? They just saved his daughter. But he feels like now they're going to come after him. Look what he says. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have troubled me by making me obnoxious among the inhabitants of land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And since I am few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and kill me and destroy my household and I." They said, should he treat, we're talking about Shechem, should he treat our sister like a harlot? You know, these men knew Jehovah's ways. They knew that their sister had really been involved in, dare I say, an adulterous affair. This man, Shechem, took another man's woman. No, she wasn't his wife, but she's his woman. See, we see wife always in there, but we don't understand that it's women that we're talking about. There is no word for wife in Torah. Woman, his woman, is what maybe we refer to as a wife, but even that's wrong because she could be his servant. She's still his woman. She could be his daughter. She's still his woman. We don't get it. We have much to learn. Well, between this verse and the chapter that we're going to go through today, look at the first verse. Then Elohim said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there and make an altar there to Elohim. What happened between the last verse, let me show it to you again, of 34, should they treat our sister like a harlot? They're going to come to me. I'm few in numbers. And the next verse where it says that. Well, last week, we spent 2 chapters in Yasher reading about what actually happened between those 2 verses. Why are all the details between the last verse of 34 and the first verse of 35 left out in Torah? Who is printing a Torah? Is there more that's supposed to be there? I think there is. Can't prove it yet. But there's a lot of things that are going to be exposed that are coming out of the vaults in the Vatican right now. Well, last week, as I said, we had 2 chapters talking about this. where am I here? There it is. And we saw that 10,000 men were outraged by these two boys who destroyed and killed 600 plus men in Shechem, plundered the city, took their women. They came against Jacob and his seed. Jacob saw him coming. He sent down to Israel and had Israel pray. Israel prayed, Father, save them. Changed the terms or the understandings of their counselors. The men that they were trusting in, the Canaanites were trusting in to lead and guide them. Jacob prayed the same thing. Keep my son safe. Well, they did. The counselors of the Canaanites remembered all the things that had happened to Abraham, how they tried to kill Abraham in Babylon, even from his birth, how they tried to capture him, how they tried to throw him into the fiery furnace, and he survived, how he came to Canaan and rescued Lot. And he and 318 men killed 800,000 men. They saw and remembered what happened when Laban came against Jacob and how Yehovah delivered him. They said, we saw with our own eyes how Esau came to destroy Jacob and couldn't do it. And now we're going to fight these guys? They basically said, what's the matter, you? You crazy? So they chickened out. Fear in their hearts. Healthy fear. Fear of Elohim. And they left. And Yehovah delivered Jacob's sons. Jacob and his sons. And his whole family. Well, it says, the last thing we read, for this proceeded from Yehovah to them, for he heard the prayers of his servant Isaac and Jacob. And they trusted in him. And all these kings returned to their camps on that day, each to his own city. And they did not at that time, fight with Jacob's seed. Well, the sons stuck around for a while, make sure they were safe, and they returned home. Now, look what it says, the very next thing. At that time, Yehovah appeared to Jacob, saying, arise, go to Bethel, and remain there, and make there an altar to Yehovah, who appeared unto thee, who delivered thee and thy sons from affliction. Both of these chapters, 34 and 35 of Yasher, all talked about what happened to turn these Canaanites away from Jacob and his seed. It's amazing. It's amazing. We miss it. And, there's things happening that we miss too. Let's go. We're gonna go to read. It says read Genesis 35. So we're going to read Genesis 35. It's going to start just like this is finishing right now. We're going to see the rest of the story today on this. Genesis 35. It says, then Elohim said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel. I think it's interesting, up to Bethel. Is Bethel up the hill? Is Bethel to a higher place? Maybe 3D to 5D? Who knows? He's going to the place where Yehovah spoke to him. And dwell there and make an altar to Elohim, who appeared to thee, and when thou fled from the face of Esau thy brother? Why is he making this altar? I guess we'll talk about that here in a second. My note here says, was this a vision? It sounds like a messenger of Jehovah is speaking to Jacob in telling him to go to make an altar. I put this as one of the first things I want to do in my next place. Yes, I am going to have an altar. Jehovah says in his word, Exodus 20, right at the bottom, if you make an altar, he will come to you and bless you. You know what? I want the blessing of Elohim on my life. 35:2. And no, again, think about this. Was this Jehovah speaking? It says, arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there and make an altar to God, to Elohim. Doesn't sound like Jehovah. Go and make an altar to me. It sounds like an angel is speaking to him. I don't see it, how the wording fits. 35:2. And Jacob said to his household, to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you. Purify yourselves, change your garments. Why would he have to tell his household to put away their foreign gods? Does that make sense to you? Purify yourselves, change your garments. Keep in mind, they just took captives from Shechem. Women, also some young boys who are now going to be their servants. Let me go through my notes here on the side. Could it be the captives that he took from Shechem? Could it be the captives that he took from Shechem? They are very lucky people to now be part of Jacob's house. These men, these ladies who have been taken by Jacob, they're going to go to Egypt with him. They're going to be the ones who are going to come out of Egypt. They're going to be their servants until they come out of Egypt. Then they're going to be free men. Does Rachel still have the idols which she stole from her father? Good question. We never heard whether she gave it back or not. Do earrings show possession? That's what a wedding band does. And a driver's license. Who is Jacob talking to? Again, I think it is the people that he just took. I said, is he cleansing the new additions to his camp to make them fully his? At least outwardly. Earrings sometimes show possession, just like a wedding ring does. In Torah, you have a manservant and a female servant. You put them together, and they have babies. In the year of release, the man gets to go, but the woman stays, and her seed, and the children. But the man doesn't have to go. The man can stay if he has the master put his ear against the doorpost and puncture a hole in his ear. And they're going to put an earring in there to show possession. He's his possession. He's a servant for life, but he gets to stay with his family. Is that the earrings that were showing that they belong to somebody else that they were getting rid of? I wonder. It's going to talk about earrings in particular here in just a second. So let's continue reading. In 35:3, then let us arise and go to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. Jacob has always been in the way of Yehovah. He learned the ways of Yehovah. Even from a boy, we saw the many years that he spent in the house of Shem and Eber, learning Yehovah's ways and learning to know Yehovah. I put over the last 2.5 years, just 2.5 years. He was 77 when he came out of Haran, and he was delivered by Yehovah from Laban, who came after him with all his relatives to kill him, take the kids back. He was delivered from Esau, and now from certain death of 10,000 Canaanites. But you know what? We just don't even see, especially the latter, the 10,000 Canaanites. We don't see that in Torah at all. Four. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods, which were in their hands, and the earrings, which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree, which was by Shechem, that was in his land. Terebinth tree is an ancient tree, an old tree. You know, there's old trees. There was old trees in the earth that reached very high to the heavens. This is all going to come out eventually. But these trees could be seen from a great distance. Oh, look, there's where we got to go. Follow that tree. We can't even imagine it. Our minds, they need an adjustment. I could talk about some things. I'm not going to today. And they journeyed. And the terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them. And they did not pursue Jacob's seed. That's it. What we just read in 35 is what's covered in Yasher 34 and 35. They did it in one verse. The terror of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them. Yes, it was. But you don't know how bad it was. And how bad it could have been had Yehovah not delivered him. So Jacob came to Luz. That is Bethel. Luz is the old name. Bethel is the new name. He named it Bethel here in just a second. You know, this is what you see so often. He's going to name it Bethel here for several verses down. Now, I guess maybe he named it when he was there the first time. Remember, his father had sent him to Haran to get a wife. Sent him with many possessions. And Esau's son, Eliphaz, was supposed to kill him. And instead took everything he had, save the clothes on his back and the rod of Elohim in his hand. He was on his way home from Shechem area, back down to Bethel, when Yehovah met with him and said, no, you need to go back to Haran. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to bless you. You're going to raise up seed, and you're going to get great wealth. And everything that Yehovah said, he did. Go figure. What Yehovah says, Yehovah does. Which is in the land of Canaan. And he and all the people who were with him. And he built an altar there and called the place El Bethel. You know, it says El Bethel. It doesn't say El Bethel. It called the place Bethel. El Bethel. No, he called the place, how do I even say it? Called the place Bethel. It's got the Bet and it's got the El. Not El Bethel, just Bethel. Bet-El. Bet-El. The house of El. El's house, I guess you could say. This was in I guess it's where we're at 37 right now. And he built an altar there and called the place Bethel, because the Elohim, they put El because, because it says, because their El appeared to him. It doesn't say El, it says Elohim. It says, Ha Elohim. There the Elohim revealed. Here, the word for revealed is this word here. Let's see if I can get it to show up. It's not gonna come. Oh, there it goes. Delude, exile, stripped. Basically showed himself to him when he fled from the face of his brother. Yeah, he was on his way home. Jehovah sent him back. Now, verse 8. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Alan Bakat, or Bakut. Deborah, Rebekah's nurse. Who is this woman? If you're in Torah, you have no idea. This is the first time this name has ever even been mentioned. But she is she is Deborah, the daughter of Uz, who came with Rebekah, and when Eliezer brought her back to Isaac, they just call her the nurse, Rebekah's nurse. But now they're giving her a name. And how would she happen to be with Jacob? These are questions that we have to answer. How did she get there? Well, we know how she got there. She came with servants 7 years, well, now 10 years prior. Just asked by Rebekah, asked Jacob to come home. Jacob stayed another 6 years. But she stayed. She didn't go back with the guys. She helped take care of Jacob's small children, who the oldest was 6 and the youngest was an infant. She's always taking care of people, children especially. Well, she's been with Jacob for a long time. Jacob knew her as a child. She's always been around with Jacob. And like I say, she's been with him now for 10 years. But Torah doesn't tell us that. We know that because of Yasher. They called the place Alan Bakut, the oak of weeping. Oh, another possibly big tree. But who is Deborah? How did she get to be with Jacob? We know those answers only through Yasher. Here's where she's mentioned for the only time. So they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse. Don't know her name, don't know her lineage, don't know anything about her. And Abraham's servant and his men. That was Eliezer and his men that went with him. 9. Then Elohim appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padam Aram and blessed him. And Elohim said to him, thy name is Jacob. So now this sounds more like Yehovah actually doing the speaking rather than somebody else doing the speaking. Your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob anymore, but Israel shall be your name. You know, we saw several chapters ago when he was at Makanaim, where Esau came against him, and he fought, I think he fought himself that night and hurt himself, his yarak. a hernia, perhaps. That's what it seems like. But I think he was fighting his fear versus his faith. And his faith won. But it says that Yehovah gave him a new name that night. Or this man, whoever this man was, gave him a new name, Israel. I think it's fictitious. I don't think it's right, because here he is getting the name again. This makes sense that he would get it here at Bethel, because Yehovah has now done all that he said he would do. Jacob acted on faith and believed Yehovah. He knew what Yehovah says Yehovah does. He acted on it with Laban. He acted on it with Esau. He acted on it with the 10,000. Where am I? 8. Then Elohim appeared to Jacob again when he came from Paddan Aram and blessed him. And Yehovah said to him, your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob anymore, but Israel shall be your name. We are going to try to start referring to Jacob as Israel from now on. So he called his name Israel. Yeah, 32. Here it is right here. And he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel. For you have struggled with Elohim and with men and have prevailed. See, that's why I say he struggled with Elohim, having faith that Yehovah is going to deliver him, and with men that were coming against him. That was what was going through his head that night. Your name shall be called Israel. Israel. He will rule as God. Oh, what a great name to have. Israel is he who rules with Elohim. His kind. It says, one version said, the prince that prevails with God, who prevails with Elohim. No, I really like, he will rule as Elohim. It makes sense. This is the he shall. He shall, that's the yod, saying he. This is the shin and the resh, which is about ruling, prevail, have power, prince. That comes from sar, is another word that is part of that, which is, again, about ruling. And then it's got the El at the end for Elohim. He will rule as Elohim. Makes sense to me. 11. Also Elohim said to him, I am, it says, God Almighty. The word that we're using there is El Shaddai. Provision from a strong authority. It could be for food. It could be for protection. It could be for many things. I am the provision from a strong authority. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall proceed from you, and kings shall come from your body. Again, a promise that is being delivered to Israel. Can I claim that, since I'm Israel and Ezra man in covenant with Yehovah, can I claim this promise for myself? You better believe I will. I'm 68. I'm planning on having a dozen more kids if I can work it out. I'm looking to raise up a nation. And I'm going to do my best to be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, the med beds are going to help a lot. Oh my goodness. Verse 12. The land which I gave Abraham and Isaac, I give to thee, and to thy descendants, thy seed after you. Here it is right here. Thy seed. It says, it's Sarah, thy seed. And to, it says, and to, this is the and, this is the to, thy, this is thy, and to thy seed after thee. I give this land. Then Elohim went up in the place where he talked with him, went up from the place where he talked with him. I had to think about that for a while. Then Elohim went up from the place where he talked with him. Elohim left. I don't know, did he take the ladder? I don't know if he needs the ladder. The angels were using the ladder to go up and down. It's Jehovah? I don't think so. But he went up. He left. He went up. Not down, up. You know, the directions in Torah are important too. Is it a good thing to go up and maybe a bad thing to go down? We'll talk about this in the future. There are places where this comes up. Told him to go up to Bethel. This is where he's going to meet with Elohim. That would be up. Makes sense. Then Elohim went up from him in the place where he talked with him. And Jacob set a pillar in the place where he talked with him, a pillar of stone. And he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. What is this about? A pillar of stone? Does that even make sense? And he poured an oblation. I figured that would be in the sack on it. But it's a pillar of stone. When do we do that? That's what the heathen do. That's what the Washington Monument and the pillar outside the Vatican and the pillar in Rome is all about. Phallic symbols. Why would he use that? Well, these are all questions that we have to hold in our heart. You have to think about these. Put it in your memory banks. Maybe we'll get answers later on. And Jacob called the name of the place where Elohim spoke to him El Bethel. No, Bethel. They said it right that time. They didn't say El Bethel. It's Bethel. Yeah, Bethel. There it is right there. Bethel. Bethel. He was there 6 months, Yasher says. So, he came from the land of Haran. He was 77. Had Laban experience. He had the Esau experience. He had the Shechem experience. And the army coming after him experience. All in 2 years' time. Now, he's been in Bethel for another 6 months. It says, then they journeyed from Bethel, and when there was but a little distance to Ephrat, Rachel labored in childbirth. It says Rachel labored. And she had a hard labor. I have a thing that says there's a note and there's no notes. Hard labor. Ephrat is Bethlehem. Bethlehem. That's where Ephrat is. She's in labor. They're traveling. Traveling while your woman is about ready to give birth. Doesn't sound like the greatest idea. Now it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, "Do not fear. You will have this son also." Remember, she wanted a second son. And so it was, as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Ami. But his father called him Benjamin. Do we have a Ben-Ami? Yes, son of my sorrow. Ben-Ami, that's what she was calling him, son of my sorrow. Jacob, Israel, is calling him son of my right hand. Son of my right hand. I don't understand what that means. It doesn't make sense to me. So Rachel's passed. Rachel, let's see if I have it here. Rachel was 44 or 5 years old. There's things going on that we don't fully understand. And I got a hunch that it might be this, it's called an inguinal hernia, that Jacob sustained in Machanayim, just as his brother Esau was coming after him the next day. Something happened in his yark, his testicles. I'll be nice. Did part of his intestines drop into his testicles? It may be that that's what's going on. It may be that that's why he didn't, here it is right here. Why didn't Jacob go with his servants to rescue Dinah? Come on, Jacob, she's your daughter. Why didn't Jacob run to tell the sons what had happened to Dinah? He waited for him to come home. Could it be that he's not moving around very well? Why did Jacob call Ben the son of his right hand? Did that have something to do with that injury? Then it says, why did he move his tent near Bilhah's tent and not Leah's tent? Wouldn't it make sense that he would put his tent by his other wife's tent and not his dead wife's handmaid's tent? Is it possible that Bilhah, being Rachel's handmaid, had inside info concerning his injury and he didn't want the others to know about it? There's a thought. It may be. My own speculation, of course. Not saying it's right. Just a speculation. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrat. That is Bethlehem. This. Rachel was 44. You know what? I think she was 45. I really think she was 45. And I think Jacob was 101 at this point when she died. But after 3 years leaving Laban in Syria, 7 years plus 6 years after marrying Rachel and Leah, Rachel was 28 years old when Jacob married her. He was 84. So Jacob was 56 years older than they were. Let's move on. And Jacob set a pillar on her grave, another pillar, which is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel, oh look, it says, and Jacob set a pillar, but then they say, and then Israel sent. See, they do it too. I don't feel bad. Then Israel journeyed and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Adar. Adar means flock. And it happened when Israel dwelt in the land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Israel heard about it. That's what we get. And Israel heard about it. And tell us more. Tell us more. What did he do? Your son sleeps with your concubine? And you heard about it? Okay. What's going to happen? Now they just changed the subject. It says now Jacob's seed were 12. This is the big picture. Now Jacob's seed were 12. By the way, we're going to find out in Yasher what Jacob had to say about that, because he definitely had something to say about that. And since we're going to go through it today, I'm not even going to go through it right now. Yeah, this is not something that's going to be done. Your son sleeping with your woman. Okay. Now, the big picture. Now, Jacob's seed were 12. But now it says Leah's seed. Leah's seed. Does a woman have seed? I guess bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. If when they came together, she became he. So in that respect, maybe she could. But keep in mind, they're Jacob's seed. We're talking about Jacob's seed. We're 12. She gave up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them and a daughter. But we're talking about the sons, so they don't even list the daughter. Dinah's not a part of it. Then it talks about Rachel's seed, Joseph and Benjamin. Then Bilhah's seed, Dan and Naphtali. And finally, Zilpah's seed, Gad and Asher. But look what it says. These were Jacob's seed. Jacob's Benay. I always call Benay seed. Generations, multiple generations of men that come from something in particular. And look, they called it Jacob again. How come it doesn't say these were Israel's seed? Inquiring minds want to know. Then, again, Jacob came to his father, Isaac. So, after 6 months in Bethel, 2 years in Shechem, he finally comes to his father. He's about 101 years old right now when he sees his dad. Then Jacob came to his father Isaac. It says Jacob's dad, Jacob was with his dad Jacob was with his dad until his dad's going to die when he's 120. Let's put it that way. Until his dad dies. I'll fix that later. Then Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, which is Kiryat. That's here. Kiryat Ha'arva. Ha'ava. Kiryat Ha'ava. It's almost like the Arva. Don't know what it means. Where Abraham and Isaac had dwelt. Yeah, this is the place, Hebron. They had dwelt there a long time. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. 180. How much older is Isaac than Israel. Do you remember? 60 years. Rebecca. Oh, you know what? I want to mention something really quick. We were talking about Deborah dying. You know what? Rebecca died about the same time. It doesn't even mention Rebecca. Why? It says Rebecca also died at the same time, and her death is not even mentioned. Why is that? It's mentioned in Yasher. That would be a pretty important thing, I would think. So what was I saying? Now the days of Isaac were 100 and, I know what I was going to say, 180 years. Isaac took Rebecca when she was 10 and he was 40. 30-year difference. 30 years later, he has the twins, Jacob and Esau. So there's 30 years between, let's say, Israel and Rebecca, and 30 years between Rebecca and Isaac. So now, here is Isaac. He's going to die at 180 years. As I said, that's 60 minus 60 years. That is why Jacob is now 120 for Israel. Jacob was able to see his father in Hebron for 20 years. Though he did seem to move around some. Yeah, we're going to see he moved around quite a bit. Isaac would have gotten to see many grandchildren in those 20 years. Yes. Keep in mind, we're going to see the boys 2 weeks from now fighting. The eldest is 20, the youngest is 13, with 102 of their servants. And they are going to take out thousands and thousands of Canaanites who are going to come against them. (13 to 20). How many kids are they going to have in the next 15 years before Isaac dies? So you've got to think about these things. There's stuff going on. When they finally leave Canaan, there's going to be 70 in Jacob's band. Men, 70 sons. Benay. Seed, 70 seed in Jacob's camp. So Isaac breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, being old and full of days, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. That's it. We don't know anything about the burial. Don't know anything about anything. What happened between him coming to Hebron and Jacob dying? There's 20 years in there. Well, I'm here to tell you a heck of a lot happened. And we're going to see part of it. No, we're going to see all of it next week. Maybe the week after that. Maybe the week after that. In Yasher. Oh, my goodness. Well, I want now to go back to Yasher and kind of cover this same material. And we're going to see kind of the rest of the story again, if you will. I'll try to move along. I know I may be going a little bit slow today, but this is really good stuff. Here we are. At that time, Jehovah appeared unto Jacob, saying, Arise, go to Bethel, and remain there. Make an altar to Jehovah. Doesn't say make an altar to me, who appeareth unto thee, who delivered thee and thy sons from affliction. Jacob rose up with his sons and all belonging to him, and they went and came to Bethel according to the word of Jehovah. Here it is. Jacob is 99. When he gets to Bethel, he's going to be there a year. So he's certainly going to be 100. I'm guessing by the time he gets to his dad. Jacob was 99 years old when he went to Bethel, and Jacob and his seed and all the people who were with him remained in Bethel in Luz, another name for Bethel. And he there built an altar to Jehovah, who appeared unto him, and Jacob and his seed remained in Bethel 6 months. Now here's Deborah dying. At that time died Deborah. Here it is, the daughter of Uz, the nurse of Rebekah. Yeah, it makes it very clear. We knew that all along. Who had been with Jacob. And Jacob buried her beneath Bethel under the oak that was there. And Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the mother of Jacob, also died. Here it is. Torah does not even mention her name. Doesn't mention her death, I mean. At that time in Hebron, the same as Kirjath Arba, Kirjath Arva, and she was buried in the cave of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from Heth's seed. In other words, it was permanently Abraham's land and cave, permanently. And the life of Rebekah was 133 years. Well, that can't be. If Jacob is 100, she is going to be 130 years old. She died. And when Jacob heard that his mother Rebekah was dead, he wept bitterly for his mother and made a great mourning for her and for Deborah, her nurse, beneath the oak. And he called the name of that place Alan Bakut. Interesting. So she died about the same time. He was getting word of her death. It sounds like while he was burying Deborah. Kindred spirits, these two ladies. And Lavan, the Syrian, died. This is the girl's daddy. Leah and Rachel's dad. Remember, he came, made a covenant with Jacob, said that he was not going to cross this spot, this heap of rocks, Gilad, for harm. And Jacob promised not to go beyond the rocks to do him harm. That was the covenant they made. The very next day, Laban sent men to Esau to tell Esau lies, filled him with lies about what Jacob had done. And Esau was angry and was coming after him. That's why. Well, look what it says. And Lavan the Syrian died in those days, for Elohim smote him because he transgressed the covenant that existed between him and Jacob. You don't break a covenant with one of Jehovah's men. You don't do it. And Jacob was 100 years old when Jehovah appeared unto him and blessed him and called his name Israel. There it is again. You know, you don't see his name being called Israel, Machanaim, when Esau was coming after him that night. It's not there. So I say, this is where he got his name. And Rachel, the woman of Jacob, conceived in those days. It said, and Jacob's woman, Rachel, conceived in those days. And at that time, Jacob, Israel, all belonging to him, journeyed from Bethel to go to his father's house in Hebron. This is after the death of Rachel, after the death of Deborah. And whilst they were going on the road, there was yet but a little way to come to Ephrath. Rachel bare a son, and she had hard labor, and she died. She died at 45 years old. That's pretty young for this young bride. He married her he was 84. She was 28, 56 years difference. He's going to live to be 130, as I recall. She's going to live, you know what, I'm going to double check that. It's an easy check for me, and I want you to see my calendar. Here it is. He's going to die at 147 years old. 147. She only made it to 45. You know, it makes me think about what Jacob told Laban when he said that someone in Jacob's company had stole his idols. And Jacob said, whoever stole it shall die. Could that be part of the reason why she died an early death? Did she still have that idol with her? Did she ever confess that she had those things? I wonder. Did they find them in her possessions after she was gone? Inquiring minds want to know. And Jacob buried her in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem, and set a pillar upon her grave, which is there to this day. And the days of Rachel were 45 years old, and she died. Yeah, she was 45. He was 101, it appears to me. Because there was, there's difference, and maybe it was early. One had an early birthday, one had a late birthday. Yeah, 40, 101, 100. It's in that ballpark. This says she was 45. So that's pretty solid. And she died. And Jacob called the name of his son that was born to him, which Rachel bore to him, Benjamin. For he was born in the land on the right hand. On the right hand, whatever that means. And it was after the death of Rachel that Jacob pitched his tent with the tent of her handmaid Bilhah. You don't have a master bed when you live in tents. You have the master's tent. The master took his tent and put it next to Bilhah's tent. Again, why Bilhah? Why not Zilpah? Why not Leah? It seems like it should be Leah, doesn't it? I wonder if it had to do with the injury. That's all I can think. So I think this comes from a much bigger story. I'm talking about the hernia. This injury would explain many things. We talked about all those things too. And Reuben was jealous for his mother. Remember, Reuben was been a little bit outspoken. We saw it last week in Yasher. We do not see it in Torah because Jacob was irate that the boys had destroyed all the men of Shechem, plundered the city. And it seems to me it was Reuben who really defended the boys, almost saying, "What's wrong with you, Dad? How come you're acting this way? Don't you have faith?" I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Reuben was jealous for his mother Leah on account of this. What does my notes say here? On account of this. Sounds pretty petty to me. He's angry. The son is angry. Yeah, it's Leah's son, firstborn son. He's angry because Jacob put his tent next to Bilhah's tent. Does that sound like, oh yeah, that should not be done in Israel? No, that's foolish. And he was filled with anger. And he rose up in his anger and entered the tent of Bilhah, and he thence removed his father's bed. He had sex with his father's concubine. It's a nice way of saying it here. Come on. Reuben at most is 16 years old. At most. I think he's probably 15 even. And it happened when Israel dwelt in that land that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah. He says on here, they said, removed his father's bed, lay with Bilhah, his concubine. And Israel heard of it. Well, he heard of it. What did he do? We're going to find out in just a second. These are euphemisms for having sex with Bilhah. Uncovering his father's nakedness is another way of saying that you had sex with your father's nakedness. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. He is he. It's his nakedness. Do you see what's going on here? We got to think deeper. There's things that we've got to understand. I'm just now coming to some of these understandings. It says, he uncovered his father's nakedness. The son is not allowed to go to his father's woman. Leviticus 18. He may have felt that Jacob should give his attention to Leah instead of a handmaid. Was this an attempted coup? Because he felt his father was not leading as he should? There's something to consider too. Was it Amnon, David's son? I forget what the son's name was that tried to take the throne, took his father's concubines. That was a coup. Was this somehow kind of a coup? I don't know. At that time, look what it says. Talking about the portion, the consequences. What did we say here? And Jacob heard about it. The Torah says nothing about it. It does say it later on when Israel's dying. No, when Jacob's dying. But it doesn't say anything now. But Yasher does. Look what it says. At that time, the portion of the birthright, remember that's the double portion, together with the kingly and the priestly offices, was removed from Reuben's seed. What Reuben did affected all of his seed. Not just him, all of his seed. Remember when Ham came into Abraham's tent, and not Noah's tent, and took, it appears, his mother. I forgot the mother's name right offhand. But took his mother, it sounds like. He cursed, Torah makes it sound like he cursed Canaan of all people. But he didn't. He cursed Ham, and all of Ham's seed is what we find here in Yasher. That makes sense, because now here we are. Same thing is being done, and it's not affecting Reuben, it's affecting Reuben's seed. Reuben and his seed, of course. So what does it say? It says, the birthright together with the kingly and priestly offices were removed from Reuben's seed, for he had profaned his father's bed. There it is, profaned his father's bed. Another way of saying uncovered his father's nakedness. The nakedness of thy father and the nakedness of thy mother. You shall not. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. The birthright was given to Joseph. Birthright, that's the double portion. That's interesting too, because Joseph is going to be the one who is going to get the rod of Elohim. He will be in possession of it for a long time. He's not going to have it when he goes to Egypt. So sometime in Egypt, he's going to get it. We're going to see it. So the birthright was given to Joseph, the double portion. The kingly office was given to Judah. And the priesthood was given to Levi. Remember, these are all Leah's sons. It was Reuben, then Levi, then Judah. Because Reuben had defiled his father's bed. Again, speaking out, tameh, defiled, tameh, made unclean, doing something that's not in the image of Yahovah. That's all I can say. And these are the generations of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. The Jacob's seed were 12. And here they do exactly the same thing they did in Torah. Leah's seed, Rachel's seed, Zilpah's seed, and Zilpah and Bilhah's seed. But they finish it the same way. These are Jacob's seed, which were born to him in Paddan Aram. Again, start it that way, finish it that way. Let's make sure we know whose seed we're talking about. They're Jacob's seed. Yes, they're bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. They are he. But it's he. He. They're his seed. And Jacob and his sons and all belonging to him journeyed and came to Mamre. You know, it's interesting. Whenever they say Mamre, they say Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron. And usually they say where the cave of Machpelah is. And Jacob and his sons and all belonging to him journeyed and came to Mamre, which is Kirjath Arba. That is Hebron, where Abram and Isaac sojourned. And Jacob and his sons and all belonging to him dwelt with his father in Hebron. Well, this is where we left off in Torah. Here we are. Let's go back. Right here, 27. Then Jacob came to his father Isaac in Mamre, Kirjath Arba, that is Hebron. So between this verse and the next two verses where Isaac is going to die, there's 20 years. What happened during the 20 years that is skipped again in Torah? This is serious stuff. This is stuff that would build the faith of people who were seeing what's going on. But we don't get to see it if we don't have Yasher. Here, here it is right here. Here, 101. This is Jacob's years. Esau's years too. Esau is 101. But when they were 101, Rachel dies, 45. Jacob goes to Hebron, 101. Jacob and his sons returned to Shechem 5 years later. 10 sons, same year. 10 sons, all in their teens, battled 7 cities and sue for peace in all Canaan. They are going to take the whole land of Canaan. Talk about Israel's seed in Joel. This is what we're going to see. Not next week, but the week after. 106, Leah dies, 51 years old. Joseph gets a coat of many colors at 106. 107, Joseph is sold into slavery. 120, Isaac dies. Their dad. He's 180. Between now, verse 27, and 28 and 29, there's 20 years of big things going on for Jacob, Israel, and his seed. Well, you're going to have to join me. Next week, we're going to talk about Esau and his seed. Oh, not one of my favorite chapters, but you need to see it. You need to see, for those of us who think, there's every word of God is correct. There is nothing wrong with the Torah. Everything is right. Please, you're killing me. You've got to go deeper. We are going to see next week. There's many, many things that are wrong. Well, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye now.